again. Okay. Hello, my lovely Star Tales. I am sort of Foxy, and I'll be your guide on this little podcast. Today we'll be talking about the different kinds of polys, things that seem like polys but aren't, how it plays into relationships, the misconceptions and stuff. Um, it'll just be a time of trying to explain this thing that a lot of time you only hear one type of it from someone who is poly but isn't doesn't directly know all the different kinds of polys, and this is that kind of place to share my experience, share the experience I've heard about from friends, share the experience I have as a now former NSFW content creator and someone who's active in the BDSM life, to share my experiences with all these different kind of things with you all in this podcast. This will be episode 1. I am joined today by Zoe the Bat. Say hello, Zoe.
Hello.
We are mainly, as I said, we're going to be discussing polys. There may be some other stuff we discuss, but it will all relate to that. We're going to. What? That's not what I'm streaming. Stream Elements. What the heck? What is Stream Elements? What is Stream Elements on about? Okay, it is the correct thing. Okay, Stream Elements is just being weird. Goddamn Stream Elements. Always being your little weird little self. Okay, but yeah, that's kind of what we're going to be discussing. And having said that, we're going to get into that. First off, we are going to kind of explain a few different kind of polys and their dynamics. Um, Zoe, if there's any that kind of are ones that you've experienced, let me know that I've missed. First off, we're going to talk about the most common one that a lot of people that you'll see a lot more people with because it's more well, out in the open because they're looking for more people. The open polys. These tend to be the most common just for the fact of these are the people looking for others to join. They're not yet closed, but that doesn't mean they're filled with lust. Open just means that they're open for new people joining the relationship. They don't. That doesn't mean they're actively looking though. It's quite complex. Most simple. It's kind of like when you're single or you're looking for a new member, like a partner. That's just the same with an open poly. But you also have open polys that are sexual in nature, where they're looking for a sexual partner. This could be for the current partner is asexual. This is very common. The In that case, what they have is called a nesting partner. This is the partner they go back to. This is the love of the life type thing. These are different from your normal poly because they're looking for someone to fill that gap. Doesn't mean it has to be any less love in it. It can be just as wholesome, just as lovely. Just means that the partner they're seeking for is to fill that gap because just because they have a need. And that need sometimes needs to be filled, and sometimes an asexual person can't always fill every need someone has for a relationship. This doesn't mean that love is any less. Zoe, do you have any interactions on that part?
Yes, because I personally have not encountered anyone asexual. I am myself in an open poly relationship. We're not really looking for members. I'm in a three-person poly, and we are current. And I'm currently thinking about a fourth. I've been talking to my partners about, and yet I am. I forgot my train of thinking. I myself, yes, poly, and love and lust are completely different in any relationship. Lust is just looking at someone as wanting them. Love is completely different. That's someone you plan to be with for the rest of your life. You want them for more than just their body. You care about them with your heart and soul.
I think it's great words, and I could have put it better myself. But there, there are one thing that I hear a lot of people talk about is being a third wheel. This is where unicorn relationships come in. I'd say there are some that do work. They can be wholesome, but unicorns have a very bad reputation in the poly community. As someone who's been poly for a while myself, I have seen people who are unicorns and don't realize it. It's it's very sad to see. Now, don't get me wrong, there are people who love being unicorns, love that kind of feeling, but it's also very mentally demanding because I have been one and I did not enjoy it. When I found out that's what they saw me as, I was quite upset. Now, for those who don't know, a unicorn is kind of a third. It's kind of the definition of third world. But what it is, they only usually this is how it usually is. Not saying it can't be other ways. I've seen unicorns who are more in a romantic sense and just not the sexual way, but the most common is you're a unicorn in the sexual sense, is they only want you for one purpose, and that is usually for the bedroom. Outside of that, they will not communicate with you, they will not talk to you, and it is such a tragic thing to see because they also expect you to only belong to them a lot of the time, and it's such a shit. Zoe, have you ever experienced that yourself?
I have, with one of my old relationships that ended up terribly. I can't go into detailed names or anything for anonymity,
Of course.
but I I started off with a monogamous relationship. I just got into a poly, and this third partner started feeling like the third wheel because I wasn't entirely used to polys. They were one of my first polys trying out, so I was getting used to it. I always kept trying to make them not feel that way. Like it was a whole unicorn relationship. I kept trying to make them feel like a natural partner. While we were all learning how this whole ordeal works, even though I eventually became the third wheel in the end, and we ended up splitting off. I don't talk to them anymore, but I've moved on way past that.
I would say that is a little bit different from someone actively seeking unicorn, but that's a good gateway to next thing I want to discuss: communication. Communication is one of the biggest things on poly, and I hear a lot of people saying,
Absolutely.
"How are you supposed to communicate with two partners or more than two? Because it's always going to be someone's going to be biased to another." And that's not wrong. But it's the same way within a relationship. Your partner is gonna have friends that side with them. You're gonna have friends that side with you, and sometimes you'll have friends that side with your partner because they've known your partner for a while, and they've just don't see that partner in that way because they've not shown that light to your friends. And it's communication is hard, but it's no more harder than a monogamous relationship. It's the only difference is now that communication has to be done between two people. Now, having said that, there are really when it comes to polys, as I said, there's open polys, but you also have closed polys. In both, communication is important, and you do not bring someone into a relationship without discussing with your partners. Mind you, there are relationships where you can go date other people, but at the end, but just tell me when you're going on dates, or you don't have to share a partner with your other partner. These are there's also relationships where both partners have to date someone, but that's not always the case. Zoe, would you like to weigh in on that?
Speaking about the different types of polys, I have a few friends that they are in a kind of poly themselves. It's more of a love triangle. There's two guys and one girl, and the two guys are dating the girl, but the guys are not dating each other. And so they don't all sleep in the same bed. They sleep in separate bedrooms, and the girl in the relationship, she swaps back and forth and sleeping in those beds, but she spends time with both guys equally.
It's an awesome thing to do. I've never actually thought of a partnership doing that, of swapping nights. And
And they make
that's
it
another
work.
that's another thing I like to discuss is those two guys don't date, but a lot of people who are poly tend to be bi. They aren't just attracted to women or men, and so there's polys built on that where either the female or male is bi, and that's a reason why a lot of older people actually end up starting a partnership even though they're married and stuff. They'll look for another partner to fill that kind of void that from way they attract to people. And having said, what they say, where two people date one person, but neither of them to date, that's a great segue into the kind of what poly is seen as. A lot of the time, it is seen as a way of cheating without fault. That's not what a poly is. At that point, you're just cheating. If you do not communicate with your partner, you do not express if both partners are not okay with being poly, you're not poly. You are a cheater.
Yes, there's a
It
distinct difference between cheating and polys. One is full communication, one is lack of communication.
and I hear people saying, "Oh, I can just go date whoever because me and my partner are open." That's with some, that's the case because, for example, I said earlier there are polys where there's asexual people with one partner's asexual. In those cases, there's a rule where their partner can still go fuck around, but at the end of the day, they'll go back to their primary. That's another type of poly, but it's usually seen with the poly community as more monogamous. It's called a monogamous open relationship where one goes seek a thing. But it can also be a poly, but a lot of time it's more so monogamous where they just go fuck people to feel to kind of feel that kind of cardinal desire, that need. Zoe, would you do you have any thoughts on that?
Not entirely out of a whole open monogamous relationship. Besides me, being part of that myself, my partners aren't really doing anything with anyone, but I am the one going around with people. I still always let them know on what I'm doing with people, and I'm not going around with 1,000 people at least. I have my picked people at this point. I do stuff with,
Okay. Now, now that we've
and they know
discussed a
of them.
now that we've discussed a few of the main kind of polys, how they differentiate, and the kind of differences between them and their own kind of niches in it, and the different kinds in there, let's talk about things that seem poly and how it plays into NSFW and things that look poly but first thing I want to discuss is pets. In the BDSM community, pets is very common because it's a master kind of owner kind of relationship. It's a giving into someone, but it doesn't necessarily have to be purely you give them the sexual side. It can be communication. It could be someone who comforts you. It's not a relationship. It's a sexual relationship, but a lot of time that is your dominant. That is the person that looks after you and stuff. It's it's very similar to dating, but usually it's separate from that. There are those who end up dating their master or they dated their master before getting into that kind of play, but someone can have more than one pet. At the end of the day, it's a BDSM type thing.
I
But
myself have multiple pets.
yeah, and
My partners are completely fine with it.
I have been a pet to a few people, and it it's one of those where I think there's some communication there that has to be done. Me and my previous master, we had a we had rules. For example, if another pet was going to be owned, we talked about because there are people that we knew that neither of us did not like. Like there was one person I did not like that they liked as a person. I hated this person. I found them to be kind of rude, disrespectful. There was people that they liked, but I didn't. But it's also abandonment comes into play there. If you do not communicate with someone, it can feel like you're being replaced. And when it comes to BDSM and that kind of trust with someone, that's even more apparent. You have to be a parent with the person who you're doing that kind of play with. Zoe, would you like to chime in?
I would know the whole pet masters thing from experience, being a pet myself and everything. To quite a few people in the past. Uh, Getting a lack of communication, getting no word from my master for months on end, just for once in a while to be like, "Hey, yeah, I'm still alive," blah blah blah. And then never hear anything after they promise to hang out. Would kind of be a bummer. But I've met a couple of good people that I'm under now. I enjoy being under.
Just a reminder, please, just so you know, we will not be mentioning any names in this. By the way, if you are owned by someone, because I know me and you are technically owned by one of the same people, but do not mention that because don't want to out out them
Yeah, the people
publicly
know
like
who
that.
they are.
Yeah. Anyway, I was just reminding there, but yeah, as we would discuss unicorns a thing, this tends to also play into that. But as we discuss pet play, there's also people who use poly as an excuse for cheating. We've discussed that. Now we're going to a few kind of, and we've talked about misconceptions. Well, kind of the common ones at least. Then we're going to kind of discuss how closed and open are different and how they can work. Main thing is open is open, closed is closed. But you could be open closed and closed open. What this means is you could be open to new partners, but not new sexual partners or going to fuck people. That's what closed open is. You also have your open closed, which is when you can go fuck people because partners are asexual, but you're not looking to add someone. These are very common in the BDSM scene where people have their partners. It's that simple. It's not complex, it's not simple, it's just how it is. And understanding your that is very important. Zoe, is there anything you can say on that matter?
I would actually say that I'm more of a closed open, not really looking for new partners,
Yeah.
but still am open to new experiences.
Yeah. We're not going to get into the benefits and downsides. Because just like anything else, there are downsides and there are benefits.
Hmm.
Before I say anything, this time we're going to let Zoe speak on what they think the benefits and downsides on it is. Zoe?
Benefits of what again?
Of being in a poly and the downsides of it.
The benefits, in my personal opinion, is I'm seen as you get more people to love because I myself as a person I have a big heart that I just want to share the love with people, and so keeping it to one person feels tough for me. So I get to express my love with more people. I love and care towards people, and it even allows for more experiences in personal life and everything. The downsides is it can be a lot more of a hassle if you're not used to it. You're not up to the task of handling that many people, and it does become a hassle. It can be quite wearing, as well as all the accusations of cheating that you'll get from other people in society. Because I get it plenty in day to day life.
Okay. Now I'd say those are great points. I would say benefits that you mentioned. Yeah, I'd agree with it. I'd like to add communication. As a poly, I think communication becomes much more apparent as something that has to be worked on compared to a monogamous relationship where sometimes it feels more to people like it because you're always going to have that third person to kind of like who's not directly involved but also directly involved who can chime in and give their own sense and help them understand. Having that kind of third or fourth or whatever can help a lot when it comes to communication, but it can also sometimes backfire when it comes to that too because there's more to communicate. So give me 1 second, guys. Bluetooth just disconnected. You're sick. There we go.
Temptation to sing the Jeopardy theme was
Okay.
intense.
Anyway, as I was saying, but yeah, it can be intense being a poly. I think communication is both the biggest benefit and the biggest downside to a poly because you have to communicate with more people. I think one of the biggest
Absolutely.
I think one of the biggest communication problems when it comes to poly is sometimes you think you've communicated with one partner, but you with all your partners, but you only communicate with one or two, and this can cause problems down the line. But it happens in a monogamous situation too, guys. I mean, you think you told your partner something, but you didn't, or they make an assumption and you kind of roll with it and you're afraid of getting mad. For example, befriending female or befriending another guy. I mean, guys, there is nothing wrong with having female friends as a male or having male friends as a female, but tell your partner. Communicate. Same thing goes with a poly though, is if you're friends with someone and you feel like your partner will be mad you're friends with the opposite gender, tell them. I mean, that's a especially if you end up getting close with this person really fast. I mean, tell your partner because to them it can feel like you're cheating, and you can cheat while in a poly too. Okay, now that we discussed that, we've discussed the cheating culture. Well, we haven't really discussed the cheating culture. I like to say a lot of people use poly to as an excuse to cheat. They use it to get away with cheating to others. They use it to try and so their friends that find out will hide it and don't think about mentioning it. It's become rampant and it causes a lot of problems for those who are actually poly and have been poly and understand it. It makes us look bad. It makes those who are friends with us look bad. It causes it hard to tell family that you're poly because well they could see it as cheating. I mean, you have to think a lot of the older people are still old fashioned. They especially in the U.S. where poly isn't a rampant thing. But at the end of the
Thankfully,
day, is at
thankfully
the end
I
of the day,
myself,
yeah. If
I had accepting parents.
yeah, if someone thinks that what poly is just cheating, it's never gonna get better. Now, getting to know poly is okay, but before you get into a poly at all, do the research. It's the same way of like if you start dating someone, don't immediately start dating them. Get to know them. That kind of goes the same way with like poly is you need to understand it to some degree. You need to know what it is, what it means, what others who are actually poly think of it, and ask advice from if there's like go and try and find someone who's poly on the internet or something. Try to ask advice or look through any videos they have that discuss it, or like for example, or share this video with a friend, guys.
If
I
I
want this.
myself, with some advice, the thing that have told some of my friends while they said they're interested in someone is I tell them, hey, talk to this person for about a month or so before you can start dating. So you have to know them and see if you think you'll connect. Instead of, hey, I like this person, let's start dating, and then it leads to heartbreak. Get to know them, see if you think you'll be fine still. But start dating. If you want to consider marriage, wait at least a year or two before deciding that. Like at least start trying to live together, everything, because that's when you start learning about the person a lot more, and so you don't make a mistake and end up with heartbreak.
Yeah, I agree with him on this. Is and just because you're poly doesn't mean marriage has to be closed and off the table. I mean, I have seen people who are poly and married to one of the partners. They wish they could be married to the others, but at the end of the day, a lot of times, a lot of people who are poly and get married, it's because they were married to one of them beforehand, or they have kids and they kind of when they and it looks better when two people are married, or adoption. When you are married to someone, it makes adoption a lot easier, guys. There are people who are single who would make great parents who get turned down all the time just because they're not married. They're single, or it's and it kind like there's people who could be financially great parents. And there's people who are married who wouldn't make great parents. It's simple as that. Because they adopt thinking, oh, a kid will solve our problems, but it doesn't. But yeah, I think there's always a reason to get married on poly, but there's also people who want to get married to one partner. They want that partner to be their nesting partner, which a nesting partner, all that is that's the partner you go back to. That's the partner that you kind of knew for the longest, or you were the most attached to. That even if you break up with the others, you want them to stay in your life. You want them in your life for as long as possible. When you are sick, that's the person you go to. The Now, mind you, you would have more than one nesting partner relationship. For example, you could have two people can have two different partners that are their nesting partners. I mean, I have been a poly where one of my friends who was also in the poly, their nesting partner was one person and mine was another. That's the person I wanted to be with, but we all kind of dated separately. So what they did, but there was one partner that I went back to. There were I love my heart for all of them, but this was the one I mainly joined for, and that's what that nesting partner is. It's the kind of person that you don't want to lose. I did lose them. This was back when I first kind of got into the poly scene. I was dumb because I was younger. I was a lot more sexual back then. But yeah, that's kind of what that is. Now that we kind of discussed everything, when it comes to like polys, misconceptions, and stuff, we're gonna talk about some basic historical examples of polys. Because I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, polys are newer and stuff." They aren't. They have been around forever. Since I mean, look at animals. Even animals have kind of polycules type situations going on. But I think for humans, I think some of the best examples are in the Bible actually, and even in Greek back in the day. Great example for the Bible is I think it was Joseph. He had many wives, and he lost basically all of them, and he lost his goats and everything, and became covered in sores and everything. It was a thing in the Bible. I mean, the Bible has examples of it. I mean, Greek, they used to. So during war, what they would have in Rome and stuff was servant boys. These were young boys. Usually, I mean, mind you, age of consent was kind of a thing back there, but not really. It was a whole thing. So I do not approve of that, but into this, they would have these boys, and what they believed was it was not cheating if it was with another man. So a lot of time during war, they would have servant boys to bed, and that was kind of how they relieved stress because they did not see it as cheating. And this was also a thing with Catholic. I mean, they were involved in that. I mean, it was that common of a thing. It was someone that was there to kind of fulfill that kind of need outside of their partner. And it was a normal thing during the time where war was all rampant, where countries were invading others and war has existed. But that's kind of what those are the two best examples of that is of when it comes to like polys have been around forever. It's nothing new. It's just now there's a word for it. Poly. Um who said there's similarities about it and everything. Everything above, take it at your own risk. Okay. Sorry we had a butt there. That's kind of all I want to discuss. Wow, 30 minutes. I did not expect it to take 30 minutes to get through all this. Zoe, is there anything you'd like to add before we end the little stream?
Uh, Not really. Except for just be who you want to be. Find out what you want to do in life. Even if it takes you a while. Don't be afraid to experiment. Discover who you are.
Yeah, as I said, be who you are, but just remember, guys, relationships are hard, but remember, communication is key. I mean, it doesn't always work out. Doesn't mean you did anything wrong. If you communicated, you truly communicated, you did amazing. And maybe that partner wasn't ready for you. Just remember to communicate with your partners, but also be open to the fact that they're not always going to agree with you. Just because you communicate doesn't mean you communicated. Having said that, my Star Tales, we're gonna end this podcast. Thank you all for watching. Share with your friends. We will be posting this to YouTube, which you'll well, if you're watching this later on, you've seen it on YouTube. I will be doing more of these in the future. Have a wonderful morning, guys. For me, it is almost 8:30. For y'all, I don't know. So, good night for
Same
y'all.
here.
Hello to Noshra. We are just about to end. But thank you for coming on by. We're actually about to probably go play Minecraft here in a bit. I'll be popping another stream for that if you want to subscribe. Anyway, everyone, thank you for coming out. And Zoe, thank you so much for coming on and being my guest for this little podcast type situation.
Thank you for having me today. I
No
have been up all
problem.
night. If my name insists being a bat, I'm gonna go pass out now.
Welcome, Arctic G. We are about to end this stream. We are going to be coming back with Minecraft, some Digimobs, if you would like to follow or just kind of stay tuned onto the channel feed, because you don't have to follow to watch my streams. What? Okay, everyone. Thank everyone for coming. We will be back with Minecraft here in a bit. We'll be posting this video later on. Have a lovely morning or night or whatever, my lovely Star Tales.